blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Oh, that rabbit hole is the New York Giants salary cap. This is Tim Snow. New York Giants Straight Talk, powered by Online Big Blue LLC. A lot of people are going to take the red pill because they don't want to talk about it. Let's give them something to talk about. Let's talk about love or the salary cap. As, you know, certain days approach for the Giants, you know, you have the day with the schedule, you have the rookie minicamp, you have the schedule coming out, you have, voluntary minicamp, involuntary minicamp, blah. Then you got training camp, then you got the preseason and everything else. One of the things that we always just seem to like to just hope it goes away, and it never does. And it's progressively gotten worse. And I always tell people, stop getting mad at me.
That's not the way you're supposed to do it, Dad. They want us to do it this
I don't know that way. Why would they change math? Math is math.
Okay,
Math
Dad.
is math.
Problem is, they didn't change math. And that's what people get mad at me about. And I started talking about this on the live stream on Sunday, that the Giants are heading to an iceberg, or heading into an iceberg, I should say. And it's a big iceberg. And it's called it's literally called, the start of the season. You look at what they have salary-wise right now with the rule of 51. We've talked about the rule of 51 ad nauseum, so I don't have to talk about the people because we all know about it. Anyone that listens to this channel knows about the rule of 51. I've been spouting this for years. We got about $1 million in cap space right now with the rule of 51. Now, the problem with the rule of 51 is it expires. It goes away as soon as that last preseason game is over and the training camp breaks. And then when you start looking at the Giants, then that's when things get dicey. And this is where the math kicks in. And this is where I'm not fully understanding the competency of Joe Schoen and his salary cap department, because he's revamped everything. But it seems like the salary cap department has just gotten worse or stayed at the same putrid level that it's been. You take a look at what's going to happen. You take a look at the dead cap number. You take a look at what's going to happen when the rule of 51 expires. You take a look at the salary cap. You take a look at the rollover money. You take a look at our adjustments. You take a look at the active roster. You take a look at, of course, the we've already gone through. But you take a look at the rookie draft allotment. You also take a look at the practice squad. You take a look at everything else, and you sit there and you cry a little bit because you look at it and you say to yourself, right now, and I haven't gone through all the numbers in the league, but when camp breaks, without the $10 million of operational cap space that Joe Schoen likes to have, the Giants could be anywhere between negative 23 and negative $30 million in cap space. Now, the problem is you have to be under the cap to start the season. There is a penalty associated with that if you're not under the cap. But it's one of those things that I just don't understand where we're going with this. You have a $19 million in dead cap, almost $20 million. We've talked about it before. 4% of our cap, almost 5% of our cap is going to
King of the almost sack.
Because I love when people are like, well, just trade these guys away. And no, guys. I keep trying to explain to everyone, when you trade people away or you waive people or do certain things, your dead cap number for the upcoming years doesn't go away. If you kick the proverbial cap can down the road, like on the contract for Leonard Williams, where you had to make an adjustment, you had to make a restructure, you had to move some money around, that money doesn't go away if you just kick that down the road. No, that attached to your salary cap like stank on a dog who needs to go potty. It doesn't go away, guys. And I've talked about this ad nauseum. We're bringing in all these guys. We're looking at all these guys. We're looking at all these contracts. And everyone's like, we need to go out and sign this guy. We got to bring this guy back in. We're going to bring this guy back in. And I keep just holding my head as I'm doing right now saying, how? And I know people are fans and I know people aren't capologists, But this is very simple math. You have about $1 million with the rule of 51. You could be anywhere between negative 24 and negative 30 million without the rule of 51, not including Joe Shane's $10 million of operational cap space, which he stole from us. The phrase. And I keep looking at the roster again. You've already restructured Dexter Lawrence. The next contract restructure, which is almost 10%, 99% of your cap, is going to be Andrew Thomas. You're gonna have to hope that Darren Waller retires. So that's going to give you about 6.5, 6.9 million. You're going to probably have to restructure Bobby Okereke. And I keep looking, and you're going to probably have to see if you can go back and do something with Brian Burns' contract. And I keep looking at these numbers, and even with some of these restructures and some of these other things, without the $10 million in operational cap space, I'm still coming in at like a -9, between -9.5 to -$11 million in cap space. Right now, the Giants are projected to have, after the Rule of 51s, to have the 32nd amount. They're going to be the 32nd ranked team in the amount of cap space. And there's one contract you're going to have to touch, and it's the anchor. It really is, and that's going to be the Daniel Jones contract.
Get him a body bag, Johnny! Yeah!
Because we're going to have to touch that deal. And I think that Shane is astute enough to understand that he's not going to touch it right away. He doesn't have to make these moves till after camp breaks. So he is probably going to wait a little bit before he goes after that Daniel Jones contract, because it's the only other contract on this roster that makes sense. The problem is he's already kicked the money down. He kicked the can down the road already on Daniel Jones's contract and raised the dead cap number 2025 to 22 million. So he's going to have to probably kick more of that can down the road in 2025. So that 22 million is probably going to be around anywhere between 27 and 30 of dead cap number once you restructure Jones's contract. It just gets worse day by day, moment by moment. And what really kills me is I started relying on other people's numbers, but I was talking to someone that is a pretty astute Eagles fan. And I hate that. I hate the fact that they're astute Eagle, that I can even use those words together. But this is a roster that is in constant flux, is in constant rebuild. They sign their own guys. They bring in talent. They go out and draft heavy. And then they bring in more free agents. And you look at how they run the salary cap. And I get perplexed on how they do this shit on a daily basis, because they have a huge dead cap number. They have a $37 million dead cap number. But with the rule of 51, they got like $20 million of cap space on a team that all they do is sign players, move players, get rid of players. Now, I will say this, that when the rule of 51 expires, they'll have about, and this is what kills me, with all the moves that they have made and all the things that they have done, when the rule of 51 ends at the break at camp, they will be negative $1 million. They could be anywhere between negative $1 million and negative $1.5 million Philadelphia Eagles, which would be the 8th amount in the league, which kills me because of the fact that you have a dead cap number on this team of almost $37 million. How is this humanly possible? And they can still rework the Lane Johnson contract. They can still rework Clay. There's so many things that they could literally do to this team to make them have more money. And I don't know how they do it. I really don't. I look at this and I love it because everyone talks about Saquon Barkley, blah, blah, blah. His cap number is like, I believe it was like $4 million this year. Is there a craziness to this? His cap number this year is 3.8. His cap number next year, Saquon Barkley, is 5.5. And then he has the kick to can number of $19 million in 2027, but there's only $4.8 million associated. And there's a potential out in 2026 after 2 years, $24 million. And I love it because people are like, well, his dead cap number is $26 million and $22 million. Yeah, but this is how he's genius. He has these huge dead cap numbers and these front-loaded years because he knows he's not getting rid of the talent. He knows he's keeping it, so it doesn't matter. We kicked the fucking can down the road, and we have $40 million in dead cap number. We have $20 million in cap number here. This guy has figured out the fact. In the early part of the contract, I prorate, I give the bonus money, I give everything else. I have the huge dead cap number because I'm not getting rid of the guy. I'm not getting rid of him. I'm not moving on from him. Jalen Hurts' cap number this year is $13 million. People will be like, well, Tim, he's got a $120 million dead cap number. Well, they're not getting rid of him. So it doesn't matter what the dead cap number is in the early parts of the contracts. Then I spoke to someone that was a Dallas Cowboys fan. And I was looking at the Dallas. I was looking at the Dallas cap space. Dallas cap space right now with the rule of 51 is about 1.7 to 1.9 million. When camp breaks and the rule of 51 ends, their dead cap number is going to be negative $26 million. And they're kind of just in the same boat as the Giants, but of course they're a playoff team. Then I look at what they can do. They can restructure Diggs, Martin, Lamb, Lawrence, and Prescott. And more than make up that money. You can also restructure Brandon Cooks. You can also restructure Steele. You can work on the Gallup contract. So they literally have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys they could restructure to get well under the salary cap. And they're a playoff team. We're not even going to get into Washington because Washington just had ridiculous cap money. So they don't count. But the Giants, they need to figure out.
I suggest you gentlemen invent a way to put a square peg in a round hole rapidly.
That's what they need to do. They need to figure out how to put a square peg in a round hole. Because I don't get where this is going. The roster has gotten worse since Shane has taken over. The salary cap situation has gotten worse. We've talked about the fact that he gave all that money to Brian Burns. And if you take a look at it compensation-wise from Burns, it was a good compensation deal in reference to the amount of draft picks. But then you turn around and give him the contract, which I understand you had to. But you got a carbon copy of the guy on the other fucking side of the line named Kayvon Thibodeau. And you didn't need you needed some more pass rush ability. But you know what you needed? You needed a true hand-in-the-dirt defensive end who understands how to play the run as much as he understands how to rush the passer. I'm going to point something out. I'm going to say it now. And I'm saying it May 13th, Monday. There's going to be a segment of time. And I'm going to tell you what the league's going to figure out rapidly. This is like when we told people back in the last Joe Judge era that we watched that Cleveland preseason game. And I cringed because I went on the mic after that game and said the whole league knows how to play the Giants. Off tackle left, off tackle right, run up the middle, over the top. Because they couldn't stop anybody. You are going to allow the likes of Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns to get that forward rush. You're going to allow them to be over-aggressive. You are going to do what the Giants do to the Eagles and certain other teams with Daniel Jones. You're going to take that over-aggressiveness and take advantage of it. That's how Daniel Jones got all those big runs against Philadelphia and Washington and everyone else. The Giants understood you take advantage of their over-aggressiveness and you run the ball up the middle. Delayed handoff, a draw, design quarterback run, because there are going to be moments and times where these guys over pursue, they over commit. They are going to be rushing downfield to try to get to the quarterback because that's what they do, because they don't really understand the complete full nuances of playing the run. And I can say that more about Kayvon Thibodeau and say, well, maybe he can learn, but Brian Burns is what he is. Brian Burns is like math.
That's not the way you're supposed to do it, Dad. They want us to do it this
I don't
way.
know that way. Why would they change math? Math is math.
It's okay,
Math
Dad.
is math.
He doesn't know any different. And people are like, well, in the Shane Bowen's system is an intricate system that he generates a lot of rush with the 4 men and only blitzes about 25% of the time. And I love when I mentioned this when we first signed Shane Bowen, and everyone was like, well, you don't know what you're talking about, Tim. You're so stupid. You don't know football. No, I just watched most of the Tennessee Titan games. And like a couple weeks later, people like on Twitter, I see in YouTube, he likes to rush 4 men, generate that pass rush on 3rd down. Like they're all astute, wonderful geniuses. Math is math. I didn't change math. I didn't invent math. We already talked about who invented math. We talked about that on the stream ad nauseum. But I didn't invent math. I didn't change math. The numbers are what they are. The lack therefore of talent in regards to the cap is starting to get mind-boggling with Shane. It's year 3, so we have to expect some type of movement on that needle. We got to put the needle on the record because I don't know where this is going. I don't. And I keep looking at this, and I keep looking at the draft, and there's some draft picks out there. You're like, yeah, there's good. And I love what's his name, Theo Johnson. People are like, and I love the one guy, one of the giant beat writers who was talking about Johnson and talking about his 7 touchdowns but only his 300 yards and how he's extremely inconsistent. and I love that because he's got all the talent in the world, but he's just real inconsistent. He has these big, huge games and then disappears forever. We got a quarterback that does the same thing. Will there be a live stream soon? Lord only knows. We're doing less and less videos because we got other stuff going on. But when we have a topic that we think is such as interesting as the salary cap, at least I find it interesting, we're gonna make sure we run that out as always. And like we say, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to ring that bell because you want to know why. That'll be awesome.